At 84 years old, I never imagined that something so simple could change me so much. For more than 10 years, I lived with pain, first in my knees, then in my hands, and later in my back. It was the kind of pain that doesn't scream at you, but follows you everywhere. I would get up and already feel it like a shadow that walked with me at every step. It made me slower, more uncertain, and, if I'm honest, more tired of everything. I went to doctors, to physiotherapists, took pills that promised relief. I tried injections, ointments, exercises, and stretching routines. Sometimes I felt a slight change, but I always ended up back at the same place. One day, while sitting quietly after a difficult night, I thought this pain would be my companion until the end. And I accepted it, resigned. I thought, this is aging. But it wasn't like that. Something changed. It was just a few days ago when I heard about a simple recipe made with turmeric, a spice I had at home for years, forgotten in an old jar. I doubted it, of course. How could something so common make a difference after everything I had tried? But I told myself, you've tried everything. What do you have to lose? And I did it. I prepared the mixture, I drank it, and in just 4 days, the pain began to ease like never before. It didn't disappear completely, but enough for me to realize that my body still had something to say. That's why I'm here today. I want to tell you exactly what I did, how I prepared it, why I think it worked, and how you might try it too. Because if this gave relief to someone like me, who already thought there was nothing left to try, maybe it can help you too. Before telling you everything, I want to get to know you a little. Tell me in the comments, how old are you? And from which country are you listening? I'd love to read you. The constant pain and the search for relief. It all started with a little discomfort in my left knee. It wasn't serious, just a pinch when climbing stairs or getting up from the armchair. I thought it would be temporary, something that comes with age. But over the months, the discomfort turned into pain, and the pain became a daily companion. Then it was the other knee, later the hips, then it reached my hands. I struggled to turn a key in the lock, open a bottle, or simply button my shirt. I felt my fingers stiff in the morning, as if they belonged to someone else. I started avoiding movements I used to do without thinking, and I found myself walking slower, more carefully, always looking at the ground as if I was afraid to fall. Sleeping also became a challenge. I woke up several times at night trying to find a position that didn't hurt. Sometimes I managed to sleep 2 or 3 hours straight. Other times I just lay there quietly, waiting for the night to pass. And when dawn came, I felt like instead of resting, I'd worn myself out even more. I tried everything I could. I started with mild painkillers, then stronger ones. The doctor prescribed anti-inflammatories, pills I took cautiously because I didn't want to hurt my stomach. Then came creams, cold and hot gels. I rubbed my knees every night, hoping that burning sensation meant something was working. I also went to physical therapy. For weeks, I followed instructions with discipline, stretching, gentle exercises, massages. Some sessions eased the pain a little, but the effect lasted briefly. After a few days, the pain returned, as if it had never left. It was like a wheel turning, always leaving me in the same place. I also tried home remedies, advice from friends, even supplements recommended in magazines. Every time someone said, "This helped me," I tried it because I wanted to believe. I wanted to think there was something, anything that could give me back a bit of my body, my energy, my life. But nothing seemed enough. Nothing was lasting. I remember one afternoon after spending the whole day inside because it hurt to walk. I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a tired person, not just physically,
but tired of trying, of waiting, of waking up hoping the day would be different and seeing it was the same as the one before. That was when I thought clearly, maybe this is my fate. Maybe the pain is already part of me. It was a sad thought, very sad, because deep down I felt like I was giving up, that I had reached the point where one stops fighting. But inside, a part of me didn't want to accept it completely. Something told me there were still paths to explore. Not necessarily the most well-known ones, not those found in medical prescriptions, but other ways to seek relief. Not necessarily cures, but hope. And that was enough to keep looking. It was then, in that mixture of resignation and rebellion, that I began looking toward the natural, not as a magical solution, but as a possibility. And that's how turmeric came into my life.
The discovery of turmeric. One Saturday afternoon, while talking on the phone with my niece, Helen, I told her that I hadn't been able to walk more than half an hour at a time for several days. She's always been very caring with me, and although she lives in another city, we talk often. That time she listened quietly, and at the end she said something that changed how I saw things. "Uncle, have you ever tried turmeric?" I laughed. I told her yes, that I had it in a jar forgotten for years at the back of the cupboard, that I once used it in an Indian recipe, but I never thought of it as medicinal. "Look into it," she said. "I'm not telling you to stop your treatments, but it can help you more than you imagine." That same night, with some skepticism, I sat in front of the computer and began reading. First simple articles, then more serious studies, all talking about the same thing. Turmeric, a root with an intense yellow color, has been used for centuries in traditional Indian medicine known as Ayurveda, not just as a decorative spice, but as a natural treatment to relieve pain, reduce inflammation, and strengthen the immune system. What caught my attention most was that its use was neither recent nor temporary. It has been used for over 2,000 years by different cultures as a natural remedy. In India, they call it golden powder. In China, they have used it to treat everything from joint pain to digestive disorders. And today, even modern medicine is beginning to recognize its benefits. I read about a component called curcumin, the main active ingredient of turmeric, responsible for its anti-inflammatory effects. I learned it works by blocking certain molecules in the body that cause chronic inflammation, the same one that causes joint pain, fatigue, and other age-related ailments. At first, it all seemed too good to be true. How could something so common have so much power? I wondered if it was just another passing fad, one of those that come and go. But then I found statements from doctors that made me think twice. One of them, in a simple interview, said, "Turmeric is not a miracle cure, but it is one of the most complete natural anti-inflammatories out there. Taken properly and consistently, it can have real effects on people suffering from chronic inflammation, like many older adults." He wasn't talking about magic solutions. He was talking about something real, grounded, that could complement what one was already doing for their health. That gave me confidence. Then I went back to the cupboard. I found the turmeric jar. There it was with its strong color and particular smell. I took it out, put it on the table, and looked at it as if it were the first time. That night, I decided I was going to try it. I wasn't excited or expecting miracles, but I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: curiosity. And sometimes at this stage of life, curiosity is the first step to feeling hope again.
Why turmeric works. A simple explanation. Turmeric is a root very similar in shape to ginger, but with an intense yellow color that stains everything it touches. It has been used for centuries as a seasoning, but also as a natural remedy. What many don't know is that inside this root is a very special component called curcumin. And it is precisely this substance that gives turmeric its anti-inflammatory properties. Curcumin acts directly on the body's processes that generate inflammation. To understand it simply, inflammation is a natural response of our body. It's how the body defends itself. For example, when you have a wound or an infection, that is called acute inflammation, and it's good, necessary. It lasts a short time and helps healing. But the problem arises when inflammation doesn't turn off, when the body keeps sending alarm signals even when there's no real danger. That's called chronic inflammation. And it's this inflammation that can affect muscles, joints, the digestive system, and even the brain. Over time, it becomes a kind of slow fire that wears you down without noticing. Many older people live with that kind of inflammation. We get used to mild but constant pain, unexplained fatigue, swelling in hands or legs. We don't always connect it to inflammation, but in most cases it's there, silent, acting every day. Curcumin can block certain proteins that cause this inflammation, and by doing so, it reduces the sensation of pain, improves mobility, and helps the body return to a more balanced state. It does so progressively, without harsh effects, without attacking the stomach, and without creating dependency, as many medications do. It's not that turmeric replaces medical treatment, but it can be another tool, an ally. And in many cases, it works where other treatments have not, because it doesn't just aim to soothe momentary pain, but to act on the cause. Also, in older people like me, turmeric's effects are especially valuable. At our age, the body becomes more sensitive and no longer responds the same to certain medications. In contrast, natural things, if used properly, tend to be gentler. It's not invasive, doesn't exhaust the body, and can be incorporated into the daily routine. I remember reading a phrase that stuck with me. Turmeric doesn't work magically. It works as nature does, slowly, deeply, and constantly. And that sums it all up. It's not magic. It's science and consistency. How I prepared the recipe step by step. After reading and reading, I decided it was time to try. But I didn't want to complicate things or use ingredients I couldn't easily find. So I looked for a simple, natural recipe adapted to what I had at home. And that's how I prepared what many call a golden milk. First, the ingredients. Here's what I used. A level teaspoon of turmeric powder, a small pinch of ground black pepper, a cup of unsweetened plant-based milk. I used oat milk, but it can be almond, rice, or even cow's milk if you don't have another. Half a teaspoon of coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil can also work. A small piece of fresh grated ginger, optional but recommended. The preparation is simple. In a small saucepan, I poured the cup of plant-based milk. Then I added the turmeric, pepper, ginger, and oil. I put it on very low heat, stirring with a wooden spoon so it wouldn't stick to the bottom. I didn't let it boil. I just heated it until it started to steam slightly and kept it that way for about 5 minutes, stirring constantly. When it was ready, I strained it through a fine filter in case there were ginger or turmeric residues that didn't dissolve. I let it cool and drank it slowly, like someone sitting down to enjoy something special. The taste is peculiar, somewhat earthy with a spicy hint from the pepper, but with the oil and plant milk, it becomes smooth and warm. If you want, you can add a little natural honey, but I prefer it plain. One important thing I learned is that black pepper is not decoration or a whim. It's essential. Pepper contains a substance called piperine, which multiplies by 20 the absorption of curcumin in the body. That is, without it, your body barely takes advantage of what you're drinking. So, even if it's just a pinch,
Never forget it. At first, I made some mistakes. The first was wanting to use a lot of turmeric, thinking more would have a bigger effect. I don't recommend that. The flavor becomes very strong. And besides, taking more doesn't mean more benefit. The secret is consistency, not an excessive dose. I also tried making it in the microwave, but I didn't like the result. The best is to do it on the stove with patience, like a little daily ceremony. I drank it every night before going to sleep. Instead of coffee or tea, my golden cut became part of my routine. The warmth of the milk helped me relax, and knowing I was doing something good for myself gave me a feeling of control I hadn't felt in a long time. And that's the key to all this. It's not about seeking an immediate miracle or exaggerating quantities. It's about consistency, listening to your body, and giving it something good every day.
What I felt in the first 4 days. The first day, I didn't expect anything. I just drank it. It was at night. I prepared the mixture calmly, as if cooking for someone dear. I sat in the kitchen, cup in hand, and drank slowly, feeling the warmth inside me. It tasted like earth, like home, like something ancient. But it also tasted like doubt. I didn't believe something so simple could make a difference, at least not for me. I went to sleep with that thought. I have nothing to lose. The second day, I woke up as usual, a bit clumsy with stiffness in my legs and hands. But when I went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast, I noticed something different. It wasn't that the pain had disappeared, but I moved more freely. I stepped up the front step without holding on so much. I thought maybe it was a coincidence, but by mid-afternoon, walking toward the bedroom, I felt my step was firmer, as if something inside me was settling. That night, I repeated the recipe with more attention. And while stirring the mixture, I realized I wanted to see what would happen the next day. That little spark of hope seemed more valuable than any medicine. The third day was even clearer. I woke up with more energy. I didn't have to massage my fingers for 10 minutes before opening the window. I went out the front door and walked a little down the hallway without feeling that constant weight in my knees. The stiffness was still there, but less. And above all, the fear of moving was leaving. That fear that settles in the body when everything hurts, when every movement can bring a sharp pain. In the afternoon, while tidying some papers on a shelf, I bent down without thinking much. And that's when I realized I was doing things I had stopped doing without noticing. Small gestures, small movements. The body silently abandons them when there's pain. But now it seemed to want to remember them again. The fourth day was different. It was emotional. I don't know if it was the turmeric, the accumulated effect, or simply the feeling of doing something good for myself. But that day, I felt in control of my body again. I moved confidently. I made breakfast, took my walk around the yard, and even called my niece to tell her what I was feeling. She listened happily and said something that made me laugh. "See, Uncle? Sometimes what heals isn't in the pharmacy, but in the kitchen." That night, when I went to bed, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because the pain had disappeared completely, but because for the first time in a long time, I felt something was changing, that my body wasn't broken. It had just been waiting for a signal to react. And that's when I thought clearly. After so many years, my body felt like mine again. It wasn't a miracle cure. It wasn't the solution to everything, but it was a beginning, an awakening, a reminder that even at 84, there are still paths worth exploring.
What I learned and what you should keep in mind if you try it. After several days taking this recipe, I learned something important. It's not a miracle cure, but it is real relief. It's not like turning on a light and everything disappears. It's more like opening a window little by little and letting air in. The body responds, but at its own pace. What I felt was a gradual, constant, and above all sincere improvement. From the start, I knew this didn't replace a doctor. I didn't stop taking my medications or abandon the recommendations I was already following. But I did feel that this recipe could be a good complement, something that helped the body work with more calm and less pain. Sometimes it's not about choosing one path or another. Sometimes it's about combining the best of both worlds without fear and without fanaticism. Another thing I understood is that turmeric doesn't work like a pill for immediate pain. If you expect results in half an hour, you'll be disappointed. The key is consistency, making it part of your routine, like brushing your teeth or putting on your shoes every morning. At first, it seems like little, but with days, you feel it. You notice it. That's why if you decide to try it, do so patiently. Give your body a few days, even 1 or 2 weeks. Observe how you feel without obsessing. Sometimes changes aren't huge, but are enough to make your day better. Sometimes you don't need to remove all the pain. Just reduce it enough to do what you like again. I also learned that relief doesn't depend on just one recipe. It's a whole set of habits. Eating better, moving even a little every day, sleeping well, and above all, keeping a calm mind. Inflammation doesn't live only in muscles. It also grows in stress, sadness, emotional fatigue. That's why it's so important to accompany this recipe with other decisions that benefit your well-being. In my case, I started walking around the yard in the morning, just 15 minutes. Then I improved my diet. Less fried food, less sugar, more fruits, more water. I also started going to bed a little earlier, without the TV on. And every night, like a little ritual, I prepared my turmeric cup. If you want to try it, these are my personal tips. Use good quality turmeric as natural as possible. Don't skip the black pepper. It's essential for your body to absorb its benefits. Don't overdo the amounts. A small teaspoon is enough. Take it once a day, preferably at night. And above all, listen to your body. No one knows it better than you. You don't need to do it perfectly. You just need to do it with intention. Because what produces results is not just the ingredient, but the care you put into using it.
At 84, I discovered it's not too late to feel better. It wasn't just the turmeric. It was also the act of caring for myself, giving myself another chance, telling my body, I still respect you. I still want to help you. And believe me, the body listens. Sometimes it responds more to a daily caress than to a quick fix. If you, who listen to me, are suffering, if every day you wake up with aches that take away your desire to get out of bed, I understand you. I know what that is. I know what it feels like to be tired of pain and tired of searching. But don't lose curiosity. Don't try it out of desperation, but out of possibility. Not with blind faith, but with an honest question. What if this really helps me? I don't promise miracles. I'm not here to tell you everything will change overnight. But I do want to remind you of this. Pain doesn't have to be your lifelong companion. Sometimes relieving it doesn't depend on great solutions, but on small habits, simple choices, a cup you prepare with your own hands. So try it if you feel it. Do it for yourself. And if it's not this remedy, let it be another. But never stop looking for what makes you feel good, what gives you back a part of yourself you thought was lost. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you tried natural remedies like this? How is your experience? Tell me in the comments. I would love to read you to know how you feel. What things have helped you on your path? And if you know someone going through the same, share it. You don't know how much it could change their day. Subscribe to keep discovering ways to live better, with more freedom, more wellness, and more peace, no matter your age. Because every year counts, and every small step toward relief counts.